I used to be like super scared before they take the paper. Like I really need to rely on a miracle to do well. So like most important goal for the year was that before I take my O-levels, I just want to be excited and be happy and just not be scared.
That on the train, right, to and from school, you would study questions and answers that you made. How do you make these questions and answers? How do you study them? Tell me your routine.
Okay, so like for questions and answers, I would...
Did you make notes for bio?
No. Ensure that we got the mark. We used to write 1 extra point. For like the questions that are a bit more vague, I would give like 1 extra point to ensure that I got like the full marks. I gotta be practical and I have to be realistic. And so I have 8 subjects, 6 subjects will be considered. You hear people talking about, O-levels are so stressful, Singapore academics is super stressful. But you're not actually stressed yet. So don't make yourself stressed when you don't have to be. I'm only like a little bit more than 1 month in JC and I can already tell that there's like a huge difference between JC and O-levels. Trust me, everyone wants to try and take it all. Like I know some people that are aspiring to take 3 CCAs and they're super ambitious, but at the end of the day, what matters the most is your A-level result.
So hi Raniya, welcome to the podcast. And I want to ask, when it was the start of Sec 4 or the end of Sec 3, right? How do you feel about bio? You know, what were your problems with bio?
I think bio is a subject I felt very, like I didn't feel confident in the subject because it felt quite vague sometimes. Like I wasn't sure that I'd get A1, even though I felt like, the paper went fine, but did I hit the marks? Did I get the keywords? It was something that I felt very, unstable in. Yeah, I was like my marks would fluctuate a lot. So it didn't feel consistent.
Dang. Okay. And then what do you eventually get in the O-levels for bio?
I got A1.
Yes, congrats.
Thank you.
So that's actually pretty good because your year, it was a bit easy. The paper was easy. So that actually makes your life harder because due to the way they standardize the results, that means that it's harder to actually get A1. So I asked a MOE bio teacher who I know, and he said the same thing. He said that in order to get A1, right, your keywords need to be super perfect. Like you need to hit many of them and need to hit very consistently. So the most perfect answers will then get A1. Yeah, so you fell into that category. Yeah, so that's why I say it's not easy feat. Yeah, good job. The reason why I asked you about how you were in bio last time and what you actually got in O-levels is because I want people to know that, okay, this is legit. Like, they should listen to the stuff you're going to say. And when I asked you, when preparing for this, right, I asked you what are some of the things that you did to make yourself get the A1, to help you get the A1. And then you said this, you thoroughly understood your notes such that it's beyond memorization. So what do you mean by that?
Okay, so what I mean by that is that before you sit for the exam, you have to make sure your understanding of the content is to a level where you feel like you can teach it in a certain way. Like teacher teaching bio can't memorize the content before they give the lesson. They have to make sure that they already have thoroughly understood it so that they can explain it, so that it's not something that you have to think hard and recall like word for word. It's just something that you understand and it's like at the back of your head. You can easily pull the information out to explain it. And I think why this was like so important that you reach this level of understanding is because the questions, like not most of the questions aren't just going to ask you to write things out word for word. It's not like all of the questions aren't really recall questions that you like. Maybe definition questions are like ones you just have to rely on memorization, but some you have to rely on your understanding so you can adapt to different scenarios of the questions coming out, because some might be out of like syllabus.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Okay, so basically understand so well as if you can teach it to someone, and that way it ensures you've gotten not just a surface memorization but really, really good.
Yeah, it's like you understand it really well that the day before your exam, you don't have to spend so much time trying to memorize things word for word, other than definitions, which I feel like you've already got down a basic understanding of it. Then you don't have to memorize things. You can work on utilizing your time more efficiently on like memorizing like CAQs or like maybe patterns of answering questions, acronyms and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So basically your advice to students would be make sure the content you already understand so well before even getting close to the exam, so that you can, the day before the exam or on the exam day itself, you spend the time memorizing the stuff that requires hardcore memorization. Like definition questions.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I
Stuff
agree
like
with that.
And I also think that understanding is so important, so that it gives you confidence the day of the paper. And it is just so much more time efficient when you do the paper. You don't have to waste time thinking something word for word, and also so you can adapt to like more difficult questions that require a higher level of thinking. It's like you have to like, it's not directly what you learn, but you have to make connections, like indirect connections, to be able to answer the questions.
Yeah, that's right. Understanding makes you more confident. And it also helps you with the application questions.
Yeah.
For sure. Now we understand understanding is so important, right? It's basically the secret to success for bio. Yeah, actually that's a good point, because most people think that bio is just memorize, right? Just brute force memorize. But you're trying to say that no, that's not the A1 way.
Yeah, I used to like just memorize and then blurt out everything on my paper, but I never used to finish my papers.
Oh.
So understanding is, and like when you have your WA1s, they will give you questions that require more memorization skills, but when you reach prelims and your O levels, they'll give you questions that are more indirect, and you're not really sure where to get what information to blurt down. So you have to have that understanding to adapt to those questions.
So if we just brute force memorize, then we will just spam everything.
Yeah.
And we won't have enough time to write or rather we will, because we spam everything, we won't have enough time, run out of time for the paper. But if you understand, then you know, oh, this is what they want from me.
Yeah.
So I only write those 3 lines and I get 3 marks.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Good. Yeah, I'm glad you dispelled the myth. And actually, I kind of hope that, I know this is what Cambridge is doing. They know people are very good at that. They know Singaporeans are excellent at this. So they are increasing the application questions, which is great. I want that. Then more people who just brute force memorize will suffer. And then only those who actually understand what they are learning will do well.
Yeah, they can like separate like the distinction students from the rest of the students better.
We've established that understanding is so important, right? How did you go about making sure you understood the stuff really well?
Hey, that's like a whole lot of
sure.
lot of techniques. So I think I used to use active recall a lot, and it's something that I also learned. But whenever I'm like revising a subject, whenever I'm like reading notes or reading my textbook, sometimes I just jot down questions on the side. And so when I'm revising it later on, like I cover the content and just read the questions. So it's like I'm testing myself on my content. And that helps you to recall your information in such a way that even though you forgot it before, you have to now use your brain to recall that specific information and to trigger those neurons to help you to remember those things efficiently. Then that will help you shift from short-term memory to long-term memory so that you can recall that information so much more faster on the day of the paper.
That definitely helps with memorizing, but I want to go more into how a student can go from just brute force surface memorizing to, because if you are those kind of student, right, and use active recall, like you'll just get better at brute force memorizing.
That's true.
Yeah, I want to know how can they go to understanding. Because you used to be like that, right? The brute force. Yeah, okay. Then you change to you understood the importance of understanding.
Yeah.
And then you said you must be able to teach it almost. Okay, so if I'm a brute force memorizer, and there's this topic, let's say transport in humans, right? The heart and all that, cardiac cycle, a lot of people hate it. So I now want to transition to becoming a understander student. So how do you go through that?
So I think personally for me is that the whole cardiac cycle thing and the heartbeat is it's a long bunch of like paragraphs and like descriptions on how it works, right? So for me, what worked best for me is to read it. Read it and imagine how it works. Like sometimes I just have to read, and then after reading I'll close my eyes and sort of try and picture how the pressure works, how when the pressure in the valve increases beyond the pressure over here, then the blood will flow from here to here. You have to imagine it in a way so that you can understand what the words actually mean to the actual heart. So it's when I'm reading it, I'll read it slowly. I'm a slow reader, but that's to ensure that I actually understand it and I don't have to memorize it later on because I already understand it. There's no point memorizing. So it's I would read slowly, and I would ensure that I imagine what I'm reading, so much so that my understanding of it becomes really secure.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, so there are two things which you said. First was visualizing. And this is super good for bio because bio is like physical stuff, right? Like you can feel a heart, you can see a plant. So when you visualize, and actually I teach my students this all the time, like every time we get to that topic, it's very hard to visualize if you just see words and a 2D image that doesn't move. So I always will show them the cardiac cycle animation and the heart pumping animation so that they can really see it. Because not everyone has that visualizing ability that I think we have, which gives us an advantage in this. But it's okay. If you don't have it, just watch those videos on YouTube. It's free,
Yeah.
And then you can visualize.
But like, I also used to try and draw, which you taught me to try and draw what it is and how it works. So you can just like draw arrows and like descriptions yourself. That really helps to make sure that you know what's happening.
Oh, that's so good.
Because like, you don't refer to the content that way.
Okay, so we got a very like golden tip, okay, which is that if you want to help your understanding, especially for topics with diagrams and physical complicated things like hearts and heart valves, then draw, visualize, watch videos. Yeah, that's the secret. That's one of a big secret to improving understanding.
And like another thing to improve your understanding is to try and find the joy in the subject. And I didn't find that in bio so much until I joined your tuition. Like it really made me want to know more. And then sometimes you'd also like show videos to help us know a little bit more. That really rounded off my understanding of the subject because it helped me. Like one thing I always found is that in primary school, I hated science because they just made us memorize things. Like we didn't, like I felt like I was giving a bunch of information to just say, okay. And then like if I ask the teacher why, the teacher will be like, oh, it's just like that. Then I don't understand it. I'm just like seeing things and I have to memorize it and blurt it out during the paper. It made me really dislike science. But once I joined secondary school, I actually took triple science because I actually found the understanding and the connections from the stuff I learned previously in primary school. So like having that understanding and like learning why things happen, it just makes the subject so much more interesting that you want to know more. And then and because of you wanting to know more, you have the desire to like search up on your own and like have independent learning. That already like takes your understanding to a different level because it's like you're not doing it because you're forced, but because you want to.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So actually this means that motivation is tied to how much you truly understand and believe in something. Because, in primary school when they say, oh, it's just like that, then you don't really believe in it. So that kills the motivation for the subject. Yeah,
and you don't have the passion to learn about it.
But then once you understood the reasons behind why they say you must say this, but why, right? Then, now I know why. You have more motivation. And so it made you search out more of such things.
Yeah.
Like to find out the justifications for what you're learning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that increases understanding a lot.
Yeah.
That's true. Dang. So those students who are those brute force memorizers, right? I'm quite certain to say that they don't have this. They don't see the joy that much. If not, they would have searched it out themselves, right? Or asked the teacher in really understanding everything that is taught to them and not just like, okay, yes, because teacher says so. And because of that, they have like actually way less info and knowledge. Like maybe you have 3 times the amount that they have because each sentence of knowledge they have, they just accept it, like download from teacher. But yours is like, okay, I have that, but I have 2 more sentences that I thought of either myself or I researched so that I can prove the first sentence of why it's true, right?
Yeah, then you're like really secure for your paper.
Yeah. Okay, give an example, which a lot of students always ask. So, there's this common misconception. Plants photosynthesize, they make glucose, right? And it goes through the phloem during transport. But actually, in the phloem, it's not glucose, it's sucrose. It gets converted to sucrose. Yeah, so many people forget that. Then there are those people who ask why not glucose, right? Yeah, so when you ask these kind of why questions, even though it's a bit out of syllabus, but that's what gives you the justification for accepting that, yeah, it's sucrose, but why, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, here's the answer, because I'm sure people are curious. And it actually links to another topic which you learn in the O-level syllabus. So, in topic 3, biomolecules, you learn about reducing sugars. And sucrose is a non-reducing sugar, right? So that proves that it is less reactive in at least one chemical reaction, the reducing sugar chemical reaction. That's why there's no precipitate. Okay, so it's less reactive than glucose. So if I was gonna send you a mail a gift in the mail, right? Do I want like people to like go, on the way it starts getting edited, like, oh, let me add a hi or in my letter to you, or let me like take out one of my sweets, put in something. We don't want that, right? We want to preserve it exactly as it is. So sucrose, since it's less reactive, less chance random chemical reactions happen, because the phloem is filled with many other food substances, right? But glucose, maybe higher chance it gets modified along the way, and then when it reaches the destination, it's like, what's this? Yeah. So I think that's why. I mean, I researched this also, and this is one of the theories.
Oh, but that makes so much sense. It's also something that you know previously, that
right?
sucrose is not a reducing sugar.
Yeah, correct. So you see, now if you know this, like, we have so many more lines of understanding just for one line of like, oh yeah, because teacher says sucrose, not glucose. And that makes you, so much better at answering application questions also.
Yeah, and like, I feel like once you understand it to that level, you don't forget it. It's you can't forget it.
Exactly. The deeper understand stuff, the easier it becomes to memorize. So, okay, that's my secret. Like, I have 2 secrets. Okay, this is gonna sound quite arrogant, but I was always good at bio. I never needed bio tuition. Why, right? Because so why was I naturally good at it? First secret is this, what we just discussed. Because I always wasn't satisfied with just accepting. I needed to know more. So that made it so much easier to memorize, because I understand how things work. The second one is just that I have an unfair advantage. Like, I just memorize stuff quite easily, especially for bio. So I feel like they're tied together though. If I didn't understand so much, I wouldn't memorize so easily. Yeah, so now, okay, a lot of the stuff that I had to study, right, especially during secondary school, I just read like 1 or 2 times, then I know already. Okay. So yeah, I'm blessed to have that. But for students who don't have that, then you must really make sure the understanding is super good. Plus, that's why I make all our memory shortcuts, so that even if you don't have that, you can still get a shortcut.
You can still score. That's what's most important at the end of the day.
Sounds very politically incorrect, but then I think that's the truth. Okay, so sidetrack, right? Something that I really like about, or that is a good lesson from school, is that it teaches us results are all that matter. Yeah, very controversial to say, but it's true, right? Like, okay, I'm a tuition teacher now. Okay, this is the business I'm in. What do students care about? Now, I can say all sorts of things. I can work really hard or really little on them. But in the end, what matters is, do they like the lessons? Are the lessons helping them? What's their final result at the end, right? O-levels and then their exams. Like, those are the results that I achieve for them. So I can say whatever I want. I can work as hard or as little as I want. But in the end, the success of this depends on the results I bring to the students. Correct? So it teaches you that lesson in life, that no matter what job you're working in, no matter what you're doing for others, like, let's say, selling coffee. If your coffee sucks, no one will buy from you. So it's all about results in the end. Like, of course, do it ethically. Don't do some like illegal stuff. But what really matters in the end is the results, and not really how you achieve it. Yeah, this is a good lesson from school. Okay, any more things about understanding a concept for bio?
Oh, I used to use spaced repetition also. But I had this thing, so like, I think something I didn't know before was that you finish your content for all your subjects around like May, June. And I didn't know that until I actually finished the content. So in Sec 4, you finish it in May and June. And then you have like so much time to memorize and do your TYS and everything. So one thing I used to do, once I knew that, okay, I got down all my topics for each subject, I made on like sheets or like Excel on Google Sheets, I would make like a document with like all the subjects, and then each subject would have their own sheets with like all the topics. And so whenever I used to revise one of the topics, I would like put like in that row that date, and then let's say that if I revise a topic and I felt like, oh shoot, I forgot so much of this, then I would color code it red. And then I would make my way throughout the list, and then I would, okay, let's say the next subject is, I felt like, oh, okay, I'm okay, I'm so with it. Then I color coded yellow. Then like if I'm okay with it, I color coded green. So I did this technique, and it's something that I also saw on YouTube, and it helped me a lot. And so I would work on the subjects that were in red such that I can make them to green before my exam. So like in the end, all my topics, you can see like all the dates I studied each of the topic and how they progress from red to green at the end before my paper. So I used to do that for every subject.
Dang.
And that really helped me to like affirm my understanding, and also because I spaced my revision out, I got many topics from many different subjects revised during that period of time, and it slowly progressed from something I was like really like I couldn't remember, oh, I learned this, to something that I'm very confident about and really understood it really well before the paper. So that makes sure that I ensure my understanding for all my topics across all my subjects, so that it made me much more confident before I take the paper.
Dang. Okay, so there are two things I want to ask. Okay, one thing is I want to point out. So when I was a student, right, I also did something similar but not as advanced, naturally. Because I had a big exam coming up, right? And I have all these topics of all these subjects. So I need to put them all in one place to make sure I tick everything like a checklist, right? So I wrote on this like paper, I wrote, okay, bio, then 1, 2, 3, 4, all the topic names. And then I'll just tick. I'll make sure everything is ticked by the end of, like, before the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a simple checklist. And it's funny, a lot of students will not do this.
Yeah.
It's just covering all your bases, right? Yeah, but for you prioritize also of like which needs more attention.
Yeah, like the ones would be in red, I'd like study more. Or like the harder topics would be in red usually.
Did you have to do, okay, so let's say we are doing in this revision period of a few months before prelims, right? Then did you have to go to that red topic twice, or like just after one time of properly it becomes green?
Yeah, sometimes that happens too, because like maybe it's a subject that was taught quite far back, and so I just needed like 2 lessons at least to like make sure that my understanding of it was good enough, because like you also have to know that like so many other subjects, so many different topics, so then you like space your time accordingly. And also because you have this list of the dates you study each topic, it also shows you and like displays your revision. So you know, oh, I'm studying bio too much, I need to study math.
Oh yeah.
So like you can see how to space your time accordingly, so that you improve your time management that way on how you manage the time you have to study before the paper.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's very high effort and very conscientious.
It is high effort, but it's like I just used to rely on this.
That's good.
So
that's
that
good.
was good. Yeah.
Okay, so basically have a checklist of all topics, prioritize based on worst to best, and then have dates to give yourself proof also. And like I guess it keeps yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would revise this whole checklist, and I only have like a few topics of each subject. Then accountability.
And you don't have to like, because time is also crucial. You may not have to study all the topics. Correct. Maybe like enzymes, something that I felt was quite easy. Then like I just memorized it once and it's like green already.
Yeah.
So it's like you can like make sure you utilize your time properly.
When I was in Sec 3 or 4, right, there's this guy in my class, and he says that this is how he studies. He'll open the textbook to the first page, the first chapter, cells, and then he'll read through. Then like, huh? So every exam you do this? Then he's like, yeah. So he would be very good at the first few, right? Cells, all that. Yeah, that all the rest, the harder stuff, he would know. So that's not a good strategy, okay? Don't follow that. Yeah, prioritize based on what's the best. That's good. So wait, back to another thought I had was, in that revision period, you know, enzymes, you're just one time you're done, right? What about other hard topics? Like, were there ever topics where you had to do more than one time, more than one round?
Yeah, definitely. Like transport and humans was one of the things that, because it's like there's so much content within that one topic. So my first, like let's say my first time I do it, I revise, it's like a yellow. It would mean that I feel like, okay, I understand everything that's going on. I think I remember everything, but I'm not confident in it. Like if you ask me like a week later, I probably would have forgotten some stuff. So another thing I used to do like right before the exam to make sure that I knew everything, and that if they tested me on some very like small minor thing that was in the syllabus but I just didn't recall, what I do before some exams or like few weeks before the exam is like, for one topic I just blurt everything out. during the revision thing, blurt everything I know out, like messily on a piece of paper. And then once I like blurt everything I can think of for that topic, I would go back and check the content like in my notes and see what I've forgotten. Then like that helped me to highlight like small minor things that are like, they love to test like small minor things that people always overlook during the paper so that they can like try and catch you.
Yeah.
So like once you like, notice all these things, you won't forget them anymore because you're like, shoot, I forgot it just now when I was blurting. Now I won't forget it anymore because you made like a mistake. It's like when you make a mistake during your paper, it's good you make mistake because then you will remember not to repeat the mistake. Something like that.
Yeah. So actually that's a good method. One way to achieve something like that before the exam is to just look at your past corrections.
Oh, yeah.
That's the same, right? Because it's like, I made a mistake before, I'm not going to make it again. Yeah, so look at like, for my classes, my tuition classes, if you're attending, then look at your homework answers. Because I have a lot of trick questions inside to make people make mistakes. Look at the questions that we go through during class. Look at your past WA1. Look at your school worksheets for the normal chapters worksheets. Your TYS practice. Yeah. So if you look at corrections, it's like such an easy hack to increase your grade by quite a lot. But a lot of people don't do it. They just, I know because I didn't also. I slacked off. Then there was this time where I was like, I don't know, 3 or 6 months ago, I made some mistake, okay? And this was in secondary school for bio. So I made some mistake. Then I wrote the corrections in green. Okay, then it was time for the exam. So I checked my past corrections. I saw that one. And I was like, wait. I'm going to cover the answer. I'm going to try, okay? Then I say the answer. Then I look, no, I got the same mistake 6 months ago as now. Yeah, so it sucks. And it shows me that like people make the same mistakes again and again. So by reviewing that, right, then I save myself lah. Because if I didn't review in the exam, I'll make the same mistakes as 6 months ago, right? Yeah, but because I saw it, then at least I saw that, okay, this is the correct answer. Yeah, so reviewing corrections, so simple, right?
Like, I did something like that as well because I knew I'd always lose my papers and because they were like worksheets and stuff, they'd get messed around. I'd file them wrongly or I wouldn't file them. That was something like a big mistake I didn't do. It's like when you receive your worksheet and your notes, you file them immediately in your file so that you can like look back before your paper on all your corrections and stuff. And so something I used to do was like hard questions, like questions that really got my brain thinking, or like things that the questions would test my content that I've overlooked. Like those questions, I just take a picture and then collate like those hard questions so that you can test yourself as you go on. And it's always important to like take note of these hard questions because like sometimes the exams will like rephrase the question but test you on the same topic. So it's like that you also got the hard questions checked in before your paper.
Those hard questions. So when I was in JC for bio, I wrote this page called Suck List, the stuff I suck at, for bio. And then I wrote all those hard concepts that I sucked at. Like, example, one of the inheritance thing, which was very particularly hard, I didn't understand. So maybe if I was O-level, what I would write on that is probably like cardiac cycle, or like blood pressure explanation questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then you have that list, right? So before the exam, you make sure that everything you understand, they tick off.
Yeah. I think like that's so important so that like the one thing in the beginning of the year that I wanted to ensure I got before I took the paper is that I don't want to be terrified before I take the paper. Because I used to be like super, super scared before I take the paper. Like I really need to rely on a miracle to do well. Sometimes I felt like that because like maybe I like procrastinated and studied the night before, like in my previous years in Sec 3 and whatever. So my goal was, my most important goal for the year was that before I take my exams, before I take my O-levels, I just want to be excited and be happy and just not be scared. And that was so important so that I don't like have a panic attack because I was afraid that I like would get really anxious while I'm taking the paper, and that would just ruin everything. I don't get a second chance at this. So I just wanted to make sure that my confidence was at a level that I don't become a victim of fear.
Dang. And that's true. Like a huge factor for our confidence and our state of mind is how prepared we feel. Okay, this is an unrelated example, but it's the same concept. So as a teacher, right, in the past, I would have a document. I'll type out the outline of my lesson and all the stuff I'm going to teach, right? But it's not word for word, it's just an outline. And that takes me like 1 to 2 hours to prepare. Then when I actually teach the lesson, I'll look at the outline as I'm teaching and start like, okay, that's the point I'm going to talk about. Then I teach, right? Now here's the problem. When I watch my lessons back, right, I notice that, okay, if I'm a student, I'll be so bored. Because I play at 2 times speed, right? I'm still bored. So that means I'm talking too slow and I am not fluent because it wasn't fully rehearsed, you see? So every time I taught, it was a bit like, I'm scared. That I wasn't confident. So that state of mind is not good.
Yeah.
Then now how I do things is I rehearse the whole lesson out as if I'm teaching it. Like I draw everything that I will draw. So it's all planned already. So when I actually do it, it's like, oh, I've done this before. And I can refer to exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm way more fluent now. Like I speak faster. I teach faster. It's less boring. Yeah. And now people say, hey, a bit too fast. But it's good. It's a bit too fast means you're going to improve because I'm going to force you to get to that speed. Yeah. So now, unrelated example, but I agree. Preparation makes you feel way more confident.
Then it's like easier for you to carry out lessons too, right?
Yeah.
Like when you have that practice that you feel like you feel less nervous. Oh, I've rehearsed it already. Things are just, they flow much more better and you're more yourself, so you're able to teach it better too.
Correct, you're more yourself. So if you're taking the exam and you've already prepared so well, then you can really be yourself. Like the anxiety doesn't like destroy your focus and concentration.
Yeah.
Okay, the downside is when I did this rehearsing method, now every lesson takes like 6 to 8 hours to prepare of actual work. So it needs to spread over a few days. And so same thing for the studying, right? If you want to be entering an exam with the right state of mind, you need to do so much more work in the revision than most students do, to achieve that. Yeah. But then, I mean, the payoff for you was good.
Yeah.
So it's up to students. Do they want to follow your footsteps or not?
That's true.
Oh, I want to hear from you. So I asked you about this before, of how you said that on the train, right, to and from school, you would study questions and answers that you made. So tell me about that. Like, how do you make these questions and answers? How do you study them? Tell me your routine.
Okay. So like for questions and answers, I would highlight, like for bios, I was already sorted with my tuition, via tuition, like all the CAQs, I would just look through those, and those are very efficiently written. So I try to replicate that same thing for my other subjects. So I would like common questions for like physics or common concepts for physics. Because it also take a lot of time to make these, like making the CAQs must have been like quite time consuming. So like I just make like questions that were like a bit vague but that got my brain thinking. So like maybe more complicated questions, I might have taken pictures of them, like collated a list so that I can just like see the questions and then test myself on the train, because I also lived quite far from my school. So then during that time I was like, it takes me like an hour to reach home, so I want to make sure that I utilize that time, or then that time just go like 2 hours, my whole day is just wasted on like transport and not utilizing that time. It's so important that I utilize that time. And so I will make sure that I had these notes prepared for me so that I can read them on the bus and on the train, and they were quite easy to make. Sometimes if I was lazy, I just take picture and I just put in a list. And also I wouldn't coordinate, I wouldn't like organize them into subjects. I would just leave them all together, all the subjects mixed, so that I'm transferring from subject to subject as well, because I feel like it allows me to forget more. But even when I forget more, when I recall it the next time, I like remember it for a much longer time.
Yeah.
So that's like how I incorporated that during my transport time.
Okay, I have 2 things to point out and 1 question. So first thing to point out is most students would complain that I live so far from school, right? And be like, oh, I so little time to study. But like, shut up. Like, look at this. You live very far and you can still make good use of that time, right? Most people will probably just like waste time on phone. So good, you actually use the time correctly. And actually, this is the smart thing to do, because if you can do most homework in school or during the in-between class waste time periods, right? And you can do it on the way home, revising or whatever on the way home, then you can relax at home. Like, isn't that great?
Exactly. Because you don't want to relax in the during your transport time when you can't really do anything. You're like standing or sitting down. You can't like play games on your PS5 or whatever. So you study during that period. So when you go home, you can have like time to play on your PS5 or like play with your dog, whatever. So like you actually like make sure that your time is really well spent.
Yeah. Oh my, what's the other thing? Okay, the question I had. What's the question? Let me think. And then I had another thing to point out. Wait, you talked about the... What? Do you take geog?
I took lit.
Lit, okay. So it's like lit and some random lit literary work that you have to memorize and answer questions to. Yeah, so I haven't heard of this before, but I have heard of research that shows for doing these kind of active recall or flashcards things, right? If you put all the same concept together and test the person, it's not as good compared to if you shuffle the concepts because they don't know what to expect. Yeah, so you're right about when you forget more and it's harder to recall the answer, that is when you benefit more with the memorization, right? So you're like taking it to the next level. Not only shuffling concepts, you're shuffling the subjects. So yeah, so that's quite insane. I wanted to ask the questions and answers, right? So basically they are the commonly asked questions for each of the subjects, right? Okay. Then the questions itself, where do you get them? Do you have to like write them out yourself, type them out yourself?
Well, like usually I'd be quite lazy. So I just like, I would screenshot because a lot of things were like transferred to digital with PLDs and everything. So like a lot of them were online. So I just screenshot and I put into one file. And so all the questions would be like listed out and random subjects also. So I didn't know what to expect. And so they would be like also varied from like a long period of time. So sometimes I'd like see questions that were from like I just like I close my eyes and swipe and then randomly pick one. And it was also like I didn't feel neglected if I didn't know the answer to the question because I knew at the end of the day I was still benefiting. So like even though it's like a bunch of questions and like a lot of times you may not know the answers, in the end of the day you still benefit. And it's like hard questions sometimes too. It's like questions that I know always get me. And then when so much time has passed of you doing these same things, you benefit so much at the end of it that you realize, hey, all these questions, you know of it already. So you're so familiar.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, so I have one more question plus one thing to point out. The thing that you said, right, is a very good point. Something that I suffer in is that I base a lot of my self-esteem and how confident I feel based on my performance, and which is not a very good, healthy, mentally healthy thing to do. So during the flashcards thing, right, or like what your practice is, if I fail to answer a lot of the questions, I will feel very bad about myself.
Yeah.
But you just said a very good point, which is it doesn't matter. Even if you didn't initially know the answer, then you have to see the answer, right?
Yeah.
And you're still benefiting so much. Because it's, especially when you don't know, then that's when the most benefit comes, right? If you already knew it, then the benefit is much less.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're very right. You shouldn't feel frustrated if you can't get the answer for the active recall. Yeah, okay, the question I had was, so just to clarify, you would screenshot maybe like PowerPoint slides that your teachers go through, right? Like, I know that's a commonly one. Just screenshot. You put in this file. And then how do you get answers? Also in those PowerPoint slides?
Yeah, so sometimes like, because it's all on PLD, I have my Apple Pen, then I just write the answers there during those lessons, then I just screenshot from there.
Oh, that's sick. Okay.
So it was quite like easy to compile these questions.
So you screenshot, you based on a Word doc, Google Doc? Yeah,
I would like put them into like a file.
Okay. And then is it one very long doc? All the subjects? Or is it each subject has its own doc?
No. It's like one big document with a bunch of questions. Because I thought it was better that way, that everything was sort of unexpected.
So you didn't even organize it lah?
No, I didn't organize. Just dump everything. Because I was also like, I was a bit tired to like organize everything, and it was also a bunch of questions. So I just dump everything, and then it was also easier for me that way.
Dang. Okay, not bad. I think if it was me, what I would do is, if I was like in your shoes, right, what would I do as a student? I would definitely do that screenshotting method because it saves so much time. I don't have to type it or write it myself. But I would need to know which are actually important. So maybe for me, I would have, like, let's say I have 5 subjects, right? I have 5 documents, like 5 folders, and just put all of the screenshots inside there. Then I would go through, like, let's say, prelims is coming. Before I start revising all these, I will go through and delete all those which are not important, because we always think some stuff are important when they're not, right? And I'll be left with actually the only important stuff. Then I'll have an extra folder where I copy everything inside. Then I do what you do, just random. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's like better when you like realize a question is, oh yeah, okay, I've seen this so many times, can delete already.
Oh.
So I didn't do that though because I was
as in not like deleting if it's important. If it's a CAQ, I want it there, even if I've seen it many times. I'm saying like, because sometimes we think this is a CAQ, but actually it's not. Then you waste your time if you memorize that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so being clear on what is actually important to memorize. I think this is a big reason why a lot of people out there like my notes, because my notes is so much shorter. I mean, it's very long, but it's so much shorter than textbook and the school notes, because there's all those other extra stuff, and some of it is like too in-depth. It's a bit out of syllabus even, so why is it in the notes? Then people will be like, oh, it's in my notes, so I need to like memorize all of it. Then you waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
So our notes is just, this is exactly what you'll be tested only. So just memorize all these and you'll be fine.
You're super efficient that way.
Yeah. So study smart. Don't like everything also I must memorize. Know what's actually tested. Ignore everything else unless it helps you understand. Okay, get it much better now. Your question and answer routine. That's good. Okay, yeah. So to wrap that thing up, right, about the traveling and studying. Okay, I have two things that I wanted to say. Like, this is what the top students do. They don't waste their time when they're traveling. Okay, long travel time is a blessing in disguise. Second thing is you are doing deliberate memorization. So active recall, like testing yourself question and answer, that's called active recall, is deliberate. Like for me, like I said earlier, I cheat. Like for me, bio came quite naturally. I just read the thing one time or two times. I don't really have to, I must purposely active recall test myself. No need, it's like, I get it, like it's memorized. So that I'm very lucky in that sense. But for harder things, I needed deliberate memorization when I went to JC also. So most students won't do this. They'll just read the notes. Like, oh, exam, okay, open textbook or open school notes, read. Like, then 30 seconds, right, they'll daydream already. Confirm, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Me too. Yeah. So deliberate memorization was what you use, and that's why it's so effective. Yeah, active recall. Okay, next thing that I wanted to ask. Did you make notes for bio?
Nope.
Oh.
Did not make
Why
any
not?
notes.
No time.
Throughout my Sec 1 to Sec 3, I did try to make notes for the subjects, but I knew I just didn't continue. And also one thing is, if I were to make notes, I just write it on paper, because the PLD is super distracting. Because you can make things really nice and like perfect on the PLD. Sometimes you want to draw like animations and stuff. Sometimes that'll help you, but most of the time you just want to make the notes look pretty. And so like those animations become really useless. Like transport in plants, you draw a leaf or a plant. It doesn't help you.
It doesn't.
And it also like, because when I was using the PLD, when I try to make notes, then it would become like, because I know it can be much nicer because it's on the iPad, it will be like I would rewrite something over and over again until it looks nice. Just one sentence. And I know so many other girls, and probably boys do too if they can. They will try and make their notes look really nice, and they just are looking at it from an aesthetic point of view, but not actually understanding what they're writing. And then like, even for subjects, I didn't find it effective to take notes my way. Myself, because it would just waste time. And when I'm writing it down, I know most students that take notes, when they're writing down their notes, they're just looking at the textbook and then having their paper or their PLD or whatever.
Copy.
And they're just copying. And they're not like understanding and comprehending what they're reading.
Right.
So it just wasted so much time. So I found it better to like use the notes that you provided for subjects like bio, and then subjects for like other subjects, maths, physics and chem, like the notes the school provided, I felt like were fine. And with the notes the schools provide, you already make like your own annotations on it if there's key information that the notes don't have. Then you just read those and see. Like, I didn't like take the extra effort and time to make my own notes, because I knew at the end of the day it's going to be the same thing, it just looks different.
Yeah. That's very good. Okay, so if you are those kind of student who makes notes for aesthetics and you spend a lot of time on it and you don't really understand what you're doing, you're just copying basically. You're a glorified copier, photocopier. And so if you're that kind of student, then you should absolutely not make notes. Yeah, totally agree. It's just a huge waste of time. And okay, let me explain what my opinion is on how to actually make notes properly. So I used it in secondary school for bio. I used it in JC for bio. For not just bio, actually, other subjects also. So, I think this illustrates it quite well. When I was in JC for chemistry, it's way harder than secondary. Like, secondary was my best subject, like, so easy. Then, chemistry in JC, I started dying worse and worse. Like, the more were taught, the more I died because the more and more doubts accumulated. So, I finally needed tuition. It's like, okay, I need help, like, desperately. And then, the tuition forced us to make notes for every chapter. Like, make notes.
Oh, okay.
And it's wasted so much of my time. I mean, not wasted, it was worth it. I got A in the end. But it used so much time. So, it was worth it though, because after I made all the notes for every chapter, and of course I did ask the teacher my doubts, right? The next exam was prelims. Then I got A. Yeah. And it's like, oh, chemistry is easy now. Because once you get over that huge mountain of content and you understand it, it becomes so easy. So, that's why I can vote for making notes, you know, like, it's legit. It works. It works for me. But the way I make notes is very strategic two ways. One is I really try not to care about the aesthetic, even though for me I have the tendency to care. And then the second thing is make everything concise. So if you just be a copier, right, of the textbook or the school notes, then you don't learn anything. But if you try and make it concise and only have the important stuff, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what's important? How can I phrase this in a shorter way? Then it requires understanding, right?
Yeah.
So I made notes like that. But there were some subjects where it was too close to the exam. And so if I made notes for all topics, I just can't have time, right? So I had to sacrifice. I couldn't make notes for all subjects. So my advice to students is, if you want to make notes, make it concise, only the important stuff. Don't make it fancy, waste time. And then make it far away from the exam. Yeah, because if you waste... I have heard of students who did this close to an exam and they fail to practice questions because they're just wasting their time doing this. Yeah.
So I think you really have to make sure that you finish your notes is like made so much more, like much more further from the exam. And like also, like, I did make some notes, but they were like I just used to take down stuff that weren't in the textbook and I just make those notes. Because I don't think I had like the mental capacity to make notes. I think I was a bit lazy at the same time. But I know some people that did make notes and like it was really effective for them because they knew how to like rephrase it better. But like I know like me and quite a few other students will just rephrase. I mean, not rephrase, they'll just copy. Copy. Yeah.
So if you know that you have very perfectionistic tendencies, then don't make notes.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it can be hard for, okay, maybe you are lucky enough that your school's notes was good enough, or you were good enough to know, like, okay, what should I actually study in my school notes? But not every student's that lucky, right? So when you have like, wow, all the notes suck, like, what should I do? Then it really does make sense to make your own reference, right? For yourself. But if you're my bio, actually no, you don't even need to be my student, right? My notes are free to the public. So for O-level pure bio, you don't need to make notes for reference, for the sake of reference. My notes are the reference already.
Exactly.
So you can save time, especially if you're near an exam. I tell my students, don't make notes, just use my notes.
Yeah. The notes were, I can't like stress how much of a lifesaver they were. I would tell all my friends about them.
Very good. Yeah.
And like they were like, oh damn, you're so lucky, yeah.
Why?
I also want this tuition.
Oh.
I was like, sometimes I feel like I want to show off to them my tuition notes and like the CAQs and everything. They're like, wait, how can you send me? I'm like, can I send you? Then again, you're a competition.
But then now I made it public.
Yeah, so I would give them, you know, just feel a little bit selfish to a certain extent.
Oh, I have a take on this. So, I know that a lot of tuition centers, right, would heavily disagree with what I'm doing. Like, either they would not give, or they will give some like crappy compared to what they actually have. Because they want to keep the good stuff for the students, right?
Yeah.
They're actually paying. But here's my philosophy that the success, right, is for the worthy. And I won't withhold knowledge from the worthy. Because knowledge itself is useless unless they put in a lot of hard work. So same for the students, right? I give this to so many thousands of students out there have it now. But some people, they just download, right? And they don't do anything. They don't even look at it. I'm like, what are you doing, sir? So there are students who do actually study it and they never join my tuition and they get A1 or A2, and stuff like that. So success, will come to the worthy. Like whether I give or withhold the knowledge, right? Whether they work hard is what actually determines the results. It's not like whether they have my notes, you see?
Yeah.
So I just give it freely.
That's true. And it also it made me join the tuition because I saw how good it was.
That's good. Yeah. Did you teach the memory shortcuts to your friends?
I did because I was also one of the better students in my class in bio, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned you got A1 a few times.
Yeah, I got A1 a few times, but the reason why those I didn't feel good about them is because they were just got A1s or got I felt like I was really lucky that time because I just blurted everything down. But I knew I didn't finish the paper at the same time.
Ooh.
So I felt bio is a subject I can be a bit lucky with if the questions are easy and just require memorization. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
You were saying that you got A1 quite a few times. Do you teach your friends the memory shortcuts?
Yes, yeah, I did. I teach my friends the memory shortcuts because I remember a few friends would ask me about topics. I remember especially during mitosis because my mitosis and meiosis is a bit confusing, and the diagrams that you showed on the memory shortcuts you gave were really useful. And one I still remember now is 0 for dialysis.
Yeah.
Adaptation. That one was I memorized so many of them, and I just share with them because at the same time they were my friends, and it made life a lot easier, I felt, for me, and so I share with them too, and it makes things much easier for them too.
Good. And back at the start of today we said about to understand something, well, you need to almost be able to teach it. By doing that you benefit also.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So good stuff. Side question that I thought of. How do you keep track of which memory shortcuts are which? Because there might be quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
Then what if you remember wrongly for the wrong concept? How do you avoid that problem?
I feel I didn't memorize all of them. I memorized the ones that subconsciously I already remembered it. When I'd go through the lessons and tuition, there are ones that stick out more, and I knew that I needed it more. There were some that I felt I didn't really rely on it to remember it, but I remembered it already without the acronym. KFC. KFC?
Yeah.
Yeah, KFC. I remember that. That one, I felt that one helped me to remember it better, but there were some acronyms that I felt I didn't need. I just didn't need it.
Didn't need it. Okay.
There was more, especially more longer concepts that I needed to remember the acronyms. Then I would remember those. But then I didn't I didn't make an extra effort to make sure I memorized all the acronyms. They were just acronyms that stuck, and those I just didn't bother to remember because I felt I remember the concepts without. So the ones that just stuck, I just make sure to remember those. And because then they would just be at the back of my head to help me remember it. And especially before the exam, I would make the effort to memorize a few more so that I know the order of how to write my answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, before the exam, definitely you should recap all this is to my students and actually to anyone using my notes and my memory shortcuts. Would it be helpful if there was a page that listed all the topics and all the memory shortcuts under each topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is such a page.
There's a page. I use that page, right?
Yeah. So some people don't even know it exists. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the bonus pages, right? Now I made them a bit more exclusive. So students have to join the Telegram channel. Then they can get the bonus pages link. So for all those stuff. There's mind maps, there's practical tips, there's that page about all memory shortcuts. Yeah, so very good stuff. But you have to join the Telegram channel. Then you can get it.
Those are so useful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm going to make sure in this YouTube link, maybe on the screen now, right? There'll be the Telegram link. Yeah, t.me/ThatBioTutor VIP Club. Yes.
VIP Club.
Yeah.
It sounds so nice. But sometimes I just like telling people I was from ThatBioTutor tuition.
Oh, sick.
I went there.
Yeah, sick. That's what I want to achieve, because like, see, I own an iPhone, right? Oh wait, my phone is being used for recording. But okay, you also own an iPhone, right? They feel good. Like, see, I have a MacBook, right? And like, let me take out my MacBook, then people feel good when they own such stuff. Same for Tesla, right? If you drive a Tesla, then people be like, wow, look, it's a Tesla, it's so cool. So it gives you status. When that brand or the product gives you status, you want to flex it on people. Like, that's what I want ThatBioTutor to be also. Such that when students have our stuff or they are our student, right, then they'll feel like good that they are in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other people will be like envious of them. Yeah, I want that. So you told me that you familiarize yourself with the TYS and the style of writing answers. So how do you absorb the style, Because as a student, you don't naturally have that answering style. So you absorbed it somehow. And what changed in the way that you answer questions after you learned the style?
I think for bio, what helped me a lot was the answering critiques and like the tuition. It helped me a lot to figure out how to rephrase my answers to make it much shorter. And then it also exposed me to TYS questions and like prelim questions. And also, like, the TYS answers were sometimes quite bad. Like, they involved like stuff that's like out of syllabus. So I'd like rely on your answers and figure out how to respond to these questions. And this not only helped me with bio, but helped me with like physics and chem too, because like I had a better understanding of how to respond to the questions. So like when I had like so much TYS and like revision and like just a bunch of practice, I became very familiar with how the questions were phrased and what exactly they were looking for. By like checking like by having those corrections and like getting things wrong, I also understood things a lot more and what actually they're looking for to hit those keywords and get those marks.
So you got exposed to a lot of questions. And
that's like super important. Just practice. And like you don't have to like say, okay, now I'm getting myself familiarized. Subconsciously, it will also happen.
Yeah, that's true. So that's actually what happened for me. Like, I didn't purposely think like, oh, this is how to answer. When I was a student, I just kept looking at the answer key, right, for whenever I get wrong. And then by reading the answer keys, I learned how the answers phrase stuff, how the keywords, right? How the markers have the speak, like hence or therefore, all this nonsense thing. So I learned that from just reading answers. That's how I absorbed it.
You just like read and then you just automatically you're more familiarized than before.
Yeah.
So
correct.
That's all.
So what I would say to students, right, is to read good answers. Because like you said, the TYS assessment book thing, it's like, it's really crappy. Some like 2 marks question, they write 4 marks worth. Then some 4 marks question, they write 2 marks worth.
Yeah.
So if you absorb the wrong style, then you suffer lah. So that's why your batch of students complain. The batch before you also complained about it. So I was like, okay, I need to make my own. Then I had to make 10 years worth, right, which is a lot of work. So I kept on procrastinating. Like, I was like 2 months late on my own deadline. And I was like, okay, I need to do this because their exams are coming soon. I think it was your prelims were coming soon, so I needed to make it before then. Then I told my friend, I don't know how much it was that I'll get fined, like 1,000 if I didn't make it by this date. So I made it. It was a lot of work, but worth it. Now you have good answers. Yes. So I need to like be very violent on my own procrastination. So there's this study that I heard of, right, where they would put a spring on a mouse tail in the lab, the lab rats, and then the rat at the front of the rat, right, they had a smell of cheese. So the rat's like, oh, I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
And the rat will pull itself towards there, and then they can measure the spring, how hard the rat is pulling. Okay, and then they did a separate setup with the same thing, but not only at the smell of cheese at the front, but they have the smell of cat fur at the back. So now they measured the spring, and the rats pulled way harder. So it shows us something that we can apply to our own lives also, which is that not only do we need an incentive, right, but we also need something to run away from. So that's why I have those fines. Because not only I have the incentive of like, oh, I create this for my students, they like it, etc. But I also am running away from like, oh, I'll be fined 1,000 if I don't do it by this date.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, great lesson from rats.
Yeah, I didn't know it could like be displayed in such a scientific way. That's also quite crazy.
You also mentioned that you learned how to write according to the mark allocation, and that definitely helped your OEQs a lot, right? Do you have any tips to share with a student who's struggling in in mark allocation, like writing to mark allocation?
I feel like with practice and like familiarizing yourself with TYS and like the answers, and like especially your school teachers will teach you on what each mark is for, and like, okay, usually what my school taught me to do is to ensure that we got the marks. We used to write one extra point for like the questions that are a bit more vague. I would give like one extra point to ensure that I got like the full marks, because I think that helped me a lot, because sometimes the points you think that are accepted are not accepted, so you just give one extra point to make sure you get all those marks. So like 4-mark question, if I have time and if I feel like it's a more vague question and I'm not very confident in my answers, then I'll give one more point. And in the end, like, I think if you manage your time efficiently, that won't kill a lot of time. I think you still have time in the end to check.
Yeah.
So that's what happened for me, yeah.
So that's a good strat. I've checked with MOE bioteacher, and he says it's legit. So how it marks, right, is that in bio, O-level bio, they don't have access denied. So if you write an extra point, even if it's factually wrong, they just ignore it. You just don't get, but you won't like minus, you see? Unless you contradict yourself. So if let's say there's a 5-mark question and your first point is A, therefore, you just say A, okay? Statement A. Then your second point, your extra point, maybe your 6th extra point was A is not true. They're like, what? You just said A, now you're saying A is not. So that kind obviously doesn't work. But if you write a separate point, and it's quite easy to think of them during the paper, because you're already thinking of this question, right? And you have all these answers that come out. So if, I have 5 answers and it's a 4-mark, then just write the 5th one in. Get the extra possible, like, safety net mark.
Yeah, it's like a be safe than sorry.
yeah. But also don't push this to the extreme where you waste time, you run out of time. So it's when it's convenient to do it, plus you're very sure of the extra point, you're like, I memorized this. I know all the keywords for this point. So then you write it in when it doesn't take time and you're sure.
Yeah, exactly. That like really assures you get your marks. Like after you finish the paper, you feel, okay, I'm confident.
Wow, this is a sneaky hack. Well, a very good hack. Can you tell me what were the main things that made your time management much better? Because in the past you used to not finish, right?
Yeah.
So, example, do you things that maybe made your time management much better? Maybe you only wrote what's relevant. You use memory shortcuts. Do you skip certain questions at first? Do you do the paper in chronological order? Yeah, so you can tell me any of the strategies that you use.
Okay, I think what was so important, especially for bio, was rephrasing the question and making sure to eliminate all those unnecessary vocabulary like thus or like and so on. Like I just make things very short and to the point. And I remember my school teacher would also get pissed off at students for making it really wordy, and they used to always say grandmother story and everything. So I think that helped a lot. Like for subjects like science, you can make things almost like their point form. So like that saves you a lot of time, because I know students, like, especially because I was someone that was like good in English and I liked to write like English and stuff, so I would waste so much time using thus and therefore, and like sometimes I don't know why my brain subconsciously like, I use thus already in so that I cannot use thus again, so I use therefore. It doesn't make any sense. It's like completely waste of time. So I used to make sure that I made things very to the point and concise, and also examiners like that. So maybe if they're one thing they're not sure whether to give you a mark, maybe you can appeal to them a bit more if your answers are a lot more concise.
Yeah.
And it's just easier for them too, and easier for you.
Yeah, so you stop irritating them, right?
Yeah,
you're right. So when it's too long, humans make errors, and maybe they might miss something, they might miss a keyword because you're so long they had to skim through faster.
Yeah.
Maybe they might miss out. And then, I like your point of you make it like almost point form. So in English, in languages, you will get penalized heavily. But this is science, and so they don't care. So you can make the English horrible, right? And so what I would do, and I also teach you all, is that I would, especially when I have no time, I'll start removing all the connecting words like and, like so, and all these, like the, and then I would just be left with mostly keywords. Yeah, so it's be so saturated with keywords.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you can do that, that's my biggest tip for OEQs. Just spam relevant keywords until it's so saturated with just keywords. That will not only be fast, time management will win, but also so many keywords, right? So the examiner will be like, wow, this is good, this student studied, then give you a lot of marks.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about skipping questions? Do you like skip questions? Do you do in order of the questions?
Like, something I had to come face to face with during my Sec 4 year is that I got to be practical and I have to be realistic. And so I have 8 subjects. 6 subjects will be considered for my overall score. So I had to make sure I prioritize those that I knew I could score the mark. Then subjects I felt a bit guilty of because like you still have a teacher for that subject, but I used to like, for example, Malay. I took Malay.
Dang.
I used to not study. I used to study Malay very rarely, and so I just used prioritise because I knew that no matter what, Malay was not going to be in my L1 R5. So I had to be practical and make sure that I prioritize what mattered, because in the end, it's the results that what matter the most. And so I had to be practical in that sort of sense. So like, for example, chemistry, I sucked a lot at calculation questions. During my chem paper, I just skipped the calculation questions and I still managed to get A1.
Dang.
So I just made sure I knew myself well enough that I knew what I lacked in. I knew that, okay, calculations, I'm still not super confident in when I took the paper. So I just skipped them and focused my time on what actually I could score and ensure that I got those marks.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I can think of 2 similar stories. One was in my bio prelim in JC, and I was rushing. I wasn't really rushing yet. There was this question in like 60% of the way where it was a genetic cross diagram. And that wastes so much time, and it was only 3 marks. So I'm like, what a scam. Then I just go, I skip. And at the end of the paper, I finished just in time. So that means that question I forgot lah. I mean, not I forgot, I intentionally left it blank. But I still got A. So it was all worth it, right?
Like, instead of you spending so much time in the question, let's say you really legit couldn't figure it out, you wouldn't have finished the paper.
Correct.
So it's like, yeah, it's so important to know how to prioritize your timing. And I know some students are like, I can't let this question go blank, right? They feel like guilty, and like when they do the rest of the paper, they're like, that question I still haven't done. Then like, you have to just know that in the end, you get net benefit by leaving that question blank. So you just have to be smart about it.
Yeah, I know. It's this like completion tendency or perfectionistic tendency.
Yeah.
Which I have. I have this at first also. So I understand when students don't want to leave it.
Yeah.
But it's such a good skill. And same for like in real life. Because when I prepare a lesson, sometimes they're like, oh, I have not enough time to prepare this. Then I need to sacrifice stuff. Like, okay, this one I cannot be so nice on my drawing. I just need to quickly rehearse the rest of the content.
Yeah.
And then, still things turn out well because I know what to sacrifice. Studying for O-levels can be quite stressful, right? How do you manage it? Like, do you have any personal stories of how you reduced it or managed it?
Stress was, I think, one thing that I feel a lot of students will do, and I also did, is that I had this preconception that I'm stressed before I was actually stressed. Because you hear people talking about, O-levels are so stressful, Singapore academics is super stressful, but you're not actually stressed yet. So don't make yourself stressed when you don't have to be. Like, know that you can still prioritize your own well-being while also making sure that you spend time studying. And what I think was so important for me to reduce stress is like, a lot of people say it, but it's actually super true, is to have social interaction. Like, talk to your friends that are experiencing the same problems, that are experiencing this like really a big amount of stress on their shoulders. Like, talk to them because they understand what you're going through. So when you talk to them, you feel just less alone, and you feel like the task ahead is much less daunting because you're not the only one going through it. There's so many other people that have to go through it, and things just become a lot better, and you can like joke about it too with your friends. You can make like anxiety turn into laughter, and it makes things so much better. And I also made sure that I tried to romanticize studying a lot because it made me actually want to study and made studying and school life a lot less stressful because I didn't view it so much as a chore or a dread. I viewed it more of like a competition and like a battle that you had to win. And it's like some people can find like the joy in like they find the joy in it and how like meticulous they can be. Like if you're planning for a battle, or some people might like war movies and stuff, and then they like the idea of a battle. Oh, they have to be strategic about it and make the best and take on the best possible course of action. So I try to view things that way in a much more positive light, because if I don't, then I risk getting burnt out, and I risk like facing so much stress that I feel like giving up.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes I would reach that point and feel like, oh, this is so stressful. Oh my gosh. I just today I promise to myself, today I'll watch TV. Tomorrow I promise I'll study. Don't do that to yourself, because that TV day is going to turn into 2 days. And I love Netflix shows and watching movies and everything. That was like my hobby. So I struggle to balance my time efficiently and study while also having that desire to like watch one more episode of a show I'm currently binging or something.
So how do you solve that?
So how I solve that is that the most important quality I've always felt like in life is discipline. And from the start, from right now, you have to force yourself into an environment where it's a lot more study than it is play, because you have to go to that experience much later on before exams where you cannot play, you can only study. And that initially, if I try to like study 10 hours a day when I was so used to watching like TV more than I was studying, it made me super uncomfortable, and it's like I was super at unease. And so I had to make sure I get slowly accustom myself to an environment of studying. And so that I like every day I like slowly study a bit, like 2 hours a day in the beginning, and then I'd accustom myself to studying a bit more, and I'd also romanticize it by like, I don't know, playing music in the background, putting a candle. It just makes the environment so much nicer. Like I make sure my table's clean and clean and organized so that I can do things, and I can just put myself in that mindset of studying. And that's something that's so hard to achieve, because you need so much self-control and discipline in order to achieve that. So you need to make sure that it's really hard you can either not do it or not do it. And so you have to make sure that you do it, because that is the better choice. Just make the better choice. I know you suffer now for the short term, but you will succeed in the long term. And that's something you have to keep reminding yourself. And one of my favorite quotes that helped me a lot was that he who fears not succeeding sits still.
Oh.
So that's something I experienced, because I was like so afraid that I would not succeed. I just didn't want to touch my stuff. I just wanted to run away from my problems. So like, he who fears he won't succeed sat still. So I'd make sure that I don't want to be this person. I want to make sure that all the time I'm doing something and I'm benefiting myself every day, because time is like crucial. It's like unforgiving. You have to make sure you don't become a victim of time.
Especially O-level.
Especially O-levels. So trying to balance stress was also knowing that stress will help you. Like the stress of like, fear of not succeeding will also help you to make sure you get things done, and that you don't have to fear it, but you have to overcome it, because sitting in that fear is more uncomfortable than actually going through it and overcoming it. Yeah. So I think stress is inevitable in O-levels. It really is. And you just have to find the best way to cope with it. And then once you get accustomed with it, it doesn't really feel like stress anymore. It feels like just a mindset and environment that is a bit more challenging, but try to make yourself like challenges a bit more. Challenge yourself. It's good. It benefits you.
So, okay, I'm trying to rearrange the ideas, right? First is romanticize studying. Make it less suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the point of the candle? Is it the light or is the smell? Smell nice.
The smell, or like the whole perception of it. It looks nice. It feels like I prepped myself to study. Now I'm gonna study.
Yeah. So try and optimize the 5 senses. Yeah, this is actually so good. Okay, so to romanticize studying and make it less suffering and more joy, less dreadful, you will try and make the 5 senses as nice as possible. So we have eyes, right? Sight. So make the table clean. That's what you did, and then it looks nice to the sight. Music. So to the ears, the hearing, it will be a pleasant experience. Then what else? The scent, right? For the nose, smelling. You put a scented candle. Then for the taste, you can eat a sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what's the last one? Touch, right? So I guess this is the surface. Like make the surface of like the table nicer. whatever surface you want. Maybe have a good pen that you like to hold. So if you optimize the 5 senses, you will like the experience more.
It just makes things so much easier, for you to do it that way.
So if you do it that way, it reduces the procrastination. And you said that one of the biggest problems is fear. Right? When you're afraid of not succeeding, the fear makes you procrastinate. And you said he who is afraid of not succeeding sits still. I would like to add, sits still and watches TV. So we escape.
Like you just want a distraction from it. You don't want to think about it. And that's pointless at the time, because it feels like when I put myself in that moments where I'm just like watching TV shows on Netflix, I feel like I'm stopping time for me. But time is still moving on. You can't face time that way. So it's just, you have to come face to face with like, I really have to sacrifice this TV time, this time spending where I just can forget about all my problems and actually face them, because it's so much better when you go to sleep that day knowing that you've actually had a productive day than a day you've wasted. And then like that feeling is so important to achieve.
It is. And it gives you constant anxiety if you don't. So yesterday I experienced this, because yesterday was Tuesday, right? And Tuesday is my lesson. So my lesson schedule is like Tuesday is my first of that new lesson. Friday is a repeat. And then I probably will open up another repeat slots. But Tuesday is the first. So it means that I need to do that 8 hours of all that rehearsing before that Tuesday lesson, right? So for me, Monday and Tuesday, my time management wasn't that good. So I postponed everything. And I barely like made it in time. Like I just finished preparing the lesson like 10 minutes before the lesson actually starts. Okay, but good news is I actually over prepared. So I had prepared for some stuff that I moved to the next lesson. So it means next lesson I got less stuff to do. So the whole Monday and Tuesday, that was my feeling, especially the Tuesday. I just constantly had this sense of anxiety the whole time, because I know something was supposed to get done. It hasn't been done yet. So that's how you're going to feel. If you go to bed at night and you procrastinated the whole day, you know that you did lots less than you're supposed to. That's how you feel when you go to sleep. Like when you try to sleep, you won't be able to sleep peacefully.
So I think like what's most important is to ensure that you're always moving. You're constantly moving. You're at least doing something, so that at the end of the day, it's still a net benefit.
It's this whole thing about discipline and procrastination, right? Is actually the dilemma of, should I enjoy life versus should I do what's best for myself in the future, right? And here's the thing. If you are those kind of student who, not a student, like many people who are adults also face the same problem, right? And it's just a simple choice you have to make. Like, if you want to just optimize your life for, I want to feel good now, then might as well be a huge baby sucking from a golden bottle and like people just do everything for you. Like, what kind of life is that? It sucks, right? Like, imagine that all you did was just you're this huge baby sucking from a golden bottle and you can watch Netflix your whole life. Like, what a boring life it would be for you.
It feels like pointless at the end of the day.
So you once people like take themselves to the extreme, like, okay, I realize that that's not what I want to optimize for. I realize that I do want to work and do stuff. So then you'll kick yourself out from the procrastination side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing. So when you imagine yourself as that big baby, then you'll be like, okay, this is a stupid mindset to be in.
Yeah, you don't want to see yourself becoming that like person that you feel like you're pathetic. You're not like actually becoming the person that you hope to be.
Yeah. Okay, funny thing about watching TV, right? I used to play this game on my phone. It's this prison simulator. Okay, so you're like a prisoner in the jail, and you can interact with objects. Like you can carry the table, you put it down, you can beat people up in the jail.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So what was a very funny thing in that game, right? Is that you have these stats like strength bar, you have your intelligence, your speed, okay, and then the intelligence bar, right? Every time you walk in front of a TV and you sit down in the game, you will lose intelligence, and that's such a good comparison to reality. It's like true, right? I know it's a stupid game, but that was a good lesson that it's trying to teach us. Yeah.
It really reflects between the animation and the real life. You think about it, it's like, it's actually more truth than it seems.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, my last big question is, how is JC versus O-level? I'm sure a lot of students are interested. So what would you say?
I'm only like a little bit more than 1 month in JC, and I can already tell that there's like a huge difference between JC and O levels. Like, I was like, oh shoot, no, I have to get into that mindset much quicker than I thought I had to, because not only that, I have CCA, like so much CCA commitments, and then you also have external commitments, and trust me, everyone wants to try and take it all. Like, I know some people that are aspiring to take 3 CCAs, and they're super ambitious, but at the end of the day, what matters the most is your A-level results. Do not prioritize doing all these extracurriculars and these commitments more than your A-levels. And that's something I see people doing. And I wanted to join student council, and I wanted to join a CCA. I wanted to have 2 CCAs. And then I realized, yeah, no, it's not going to work out that way.
So which did you choose?
I chose to join basketball, and I just didn't join student council because it required election and campaigning, and it was going to be a bit more strenuous, and it was less. I was not very stable in that CCA. Like, I wasn't sure if I was going to join yet. Correct. So it made sense to join basketball instead.
Nice. Is it quite competitive? Like,
my school isn't as competitive. I think that's why I was able to get in, because I had no prior experience to playing.
Dang, good. Okay.
But yeah, so I made sure that now I can see how things are going on, and like I can already tell that the content in JC is so much more in-depth and harder. Like, you're learning things at a much deeper level. And it's crazy to think that the stuff that you learn for O-levels happens across the span of 4 years. But the stuff you learn in JC, it's like much more harder, and it's over the span of 2 years. Yeah. So like, for people taking O-levels now, just know that you definitely can do it. You can definitely have that content and like be super prepared for your O-levels, because A-level is going to put you to a whole different level. So
yeah, that's right. When I went to JC, then it's like, oh yeah, the O-level stuff, that's easy now. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Wow, we're only 1 month in, plus 2 months, gonna be 2 months in. Yeah, I think you will just be more reinforced in what you just said. Like, you'll be like, okay, yes, this is really hard.
Yeah, it's like hard now. I'm like, only like I also feel like I'm lagging behind a bit. So during this March holidays, it was my time to like make sure that I revise things and make sure everything's in accordance to what it should be. Because you don't want to like be. That's why I hear. And also, when you join JC, everyone will make it a point. All the teachers will make it a point to tell you how scary JC is gonna be.
Oh, they will.
Like, my teachers did. They were like, this is a different ball game. You have no idea what you're getting into. Like, they made things seem super scary. And while it is scary, have fun. Things are gonna be so much better if you can study and also have fun.
So my JC, what I really agree with you is that realize that A-level is the most important thing out of JC. So there are all these other distractions, like when you first go in, there's orientation, right? And then the orientation group will go out for social events. And then the class will have orientation. And then the class will go out every day. And then you'll waste so much time. So that's what I almost fell into that trap. And then after a while, I got quite resentful, bitter. This is a me problem. Because I realized that, hey, people don't actually care. They're just going out for fun, but they don't actually care about you. The connections are not real and deep. So I just withdrew. I became like quite a loner. I just hang out with my like secondary school friends because I was RI, right? So I know quite a lot of people. Then when we go to RJC together, then I just hang out with those RI people because I know them from last time. Yeah, so that was kind of good for me, because if I didn't withdraw and become a bit of a loner from the rest, I would have wasted so much time with the socializing. So much. Then what else? CCA. So I chose a very good CCA. So I went to Taekwondo. And then people are like, wow, Taekwondo sounds so legit, right? But it's only 1 hour a week.
Oh.
Yeah. So it sounds good. It is interesting to me. And it's only 1 hour a week. So I have so much more time to do the stuff I want, like especially study. When it's nearer to exams and stuff, you need that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was such a good CCA to choose. So in JC, my advice is choose a slack CCA. Yeah, for strategic purposes, so that your A-levels will benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, then here's another thing. H3 is a distraction also. Because I know people who took H3, and if they didn't get 90 rank points, which is all A's, why in the world are you taking a H3? Why? You should get all A's. That's your biggest priority. Because literally to enter the uni courses, right, they will have a cutoff point. So if you sacrifice your rank points because you wanted history, then what are you doing? You're like killing yourself from getting those courses that you want. So what really matters is just max out the rank points. As many subjects get A in the A levels. So I managed to get 90. I'm thankful for that. So it's basically now all the courses are open to me. I hit all. I mean, there's nothing that will have a cutoff point which I can't hit. But imagine if I took H3, because I did attend H3 Bio 1 class. Like I wanted to take it. So I attended one lesson. It was 3 hours long. There was so many lecture slides. I didn't understand most of it because the teacher was just like reading off the slides. So after that lesson, I calculated, okay, every week I would sacrifice 3 hours and read all the readings and understand myself because the teacher is not helpful. So how many hours am I going to waste each week? I'm not going to sacrifice that. Yeah. So I immediately quit after one lesson. And it was a good choice. Like, I don't regret. I mean, I got 90, right? So if I didn't quit that, I probably would have hindered my rank points and gotten less. So A level is the most important. H3 is a distraction. Unless you are so good that, 90 rank points is easy. Then, okay, you want a challenge, take H3, yeah. And then there is the CCAs and all that. Yeah, that's also another distraction. And unnecessary social events. Like you said, about talking to friends during O levels, I agree with that. But if you're just doing it for the sake of the socializing, then it's a huge time suck.
Yeah, and in JC, like, I recognize a lot of people feel the need to socialize so that they have that social standing. Like, they have that social status, or they're like popular, they feel more safe that way. It's useless in JC. Like, is it gonna help you that much? Not really. Like, in the end, what matters is your A levels, and your uni life is probably where you wanna prioritize those things a little bit more, because this is just 2 years. And so I know a lot of people, they want to focus on going out and going to the social events because they feel like, so I can make connections and where I can like become a bit more popular and feel better about yourself. But at the end of the day, is it really that useful? No, right? It just feels like something you feel like you need to do for yourself and for how you're perceived, because people care so much about they're perceived. So, but at the end of the day, it's not useful. So just do what benefits you the most.
Yeah, correct. So I'm not saying don't have friends. Like I still did, I still have very relatively close those people who I did hang out with. So that's good. And by the way, I was like very obsessed with gymming during my JC. So I gym like pretty much 3 times a week, and each time is like 3-4 hours sometimes. Yeah, I mean, okay, a lot of times it's like talking to friends during the gym. But yeah, so I could do that and still study and still get 90 rank points. So that just shows you, although JC is hard, but you have a lot of time actually. You have. Like now, I'm working way more than I did when I was in JC. But in JC, I was like, this is so hard. But yeah, then now I'm like, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Then did you like... Oh, wait, sorry, I wanted to ask, what's your take on taking like 4 H2s?
Oh, I took that.
You took 4 H2s?
Okay, that's a good question. So my father pressured me to take it, 4 H2s. I took BCME, Bio, Chem, Math I wanted H1 because I'm not naturally good at math. I can be good if I practice and spend effort, but I'm not naturally like Bio and Econs, okay? So I wanted to have H1 Math because I heard from a lot of people that H1 Math is easier than my RI Sec 4 Math. So it's like, RI Sec 4 Math, I think I got 4.0 GPA out of 4, which is like 80%. So that means I'm good. I can definitely do the H1 Math and get A. It's a free A. So why not, right? And my father was like, no, just do it. Because most people in RJC would take 4 H2s. And then if they really cannot, they die. Then they drop 1 to H1. Then it would be 3 H2 and 1 H1, which is the norm, right? So I wanted to take H1, but he pressured me to take H2. And looking back, it's a huge mistake because during the A-level math paper, I felt like I was going to get a C because I had so many questions which I didn't get the final answer. And I had a lot of method marks. Okay, so I had to skip some and so on. And then when I checked my answer back, it's like, oh no, it doesn't work. The final answer doesn't match. Then after the paper, I compare to other people. I see those online like, what's the answers, right? Yeah. And it's all different. Then I'm like, I'm dead. Yeah, I'm going to get a C. But I got A. I really can't understand how. Okay,
Oh.
like that's just God blessing me. So I got an A, but it's such a shaky A, right? Like you told me near the start of today, you want to enter an exam with confidence. That was the opposite of me. So imagine if I didn't take his advice and I wasn't pressured to just conform, right? And I was like, okay, what really matters is getting all A's, right? So I would have taken a H1 math. Who cares if I don't learn that much in math? Because I'm not going to be an engineer or physicist, right? I already knew that. So I would basically not have to study much and get a free A. Then I have more time for my other subjects. So it was very risky of me taking 4 H2s. If I could do it again, I would kick out the math H2 and put H1. Because in the A-level calculation, right, the 4 H2s, one of them converts into a H1 anyway. So why would you take H2 and just to flex? Okay, so here are the benefits of taking 4 H2s. You can flex on people. You can, in the uni courses, right, some of them require H2, and I actually made a post recently on this of like which the courses that require H2 for which subjects. So that if you're interested, then you know, okay, I need to take H2 for that. And the last benefit is if the uni was accepting two different people and you are identical but you have the H2, the extra one, then yeah, you do look better on paper to the uni. But yeah, I don't think it was worth it, the 4 H2s.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
What advice will you give to the current students who are taking O-level bio now this year? Any like last words or advice?
I think I would say is to remember that time is relentless and unforgiving, and don't waste your time doing things that you know will not benefit you at the end of the day, and try your best to max out your productivity throughout each day so that you go to bed feeling like, okay, I didn't waste this day. And know that even if you're getting things wrong or like you're doing something but you don't feel like it's so effective, like, oh, I'm just reading my notes now when I could be like doing my TYS, it's fine. At the end of the day, you're still benefiting. And so always try and make sure that you spend your time efficiently. And I know this is really difficult for some people, but cut out distractions like social media. Like I remember short content videos was a huge distraction. You think like one video is 60 seconds, you end up watching like so many more than you anticipated. So I cut all that forms of media out because I knew that I was going to end up going back to it, especially like sometimes you're waiting for something and you can't like sit there and just wait, because we've gone to a society and a generation where we just need some distraction, and so you will rely on that. Don't do that. Read books. Reading books is so important. Not just it expands your knowledge and it's also interesting and helps you with English, I guess. It's so important because it helps you improve your attention span in like so much. And I found it super difficult throughout my life to read books when I was younger because I had such a short attention span. When I improved my attention span to a point where like I can actually read those books and like not get distracted or feel bored, it's so much better because my focus is now at a level that's really good, that when I take those exams, when I do those papers, I can focus and not think about other things, because I used to get distracted too easily. So like knowing and improving your attention span such that it doesn't become a weakness point for you is so important. So like read books. It will benefit you no matter what. Even if it's like a fantasy or a fiction book, doesn't matter. It will benefit you. And I rather students read than actually watch TV or stuff like that, because it reduces your attention span so much. Like sometimes I'll be finding myself watching Netflix and like just like fast forwarding.
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah, because like I'm like, okay, just get straight to the point. Or like sometimes I want it to be more time efficient, but I got nothing else to do. I just fast forwarding because I cannot focus that long, especially if it's like a long monologue or something. So it's like improving your attention span is also very important. So I would think that making sure that your time is well spent doing all these things that will help benefit you is super important. And remembering at the end of the day, even if you do something small, at least you help to benefit yourself in some way and you gain something out of it.
So always progress every day, even if some days is bigger, some days is less, but still you want to make progress.
Yeah.
Second is spend your time well.
Yeah.
It's basically spend your time wisely. There's this quote that you are the sum of the decisions you've made your whole life, right, up to this point, which is true. So you only have yourself to blame. if you are not where you want to be. And yeah, it's just about making higher quality decisions with how you spend your time.
And I know it's like, it sounds quite scary, like a lot of stress they put on like a 16-year-old, but it's life. And at the end of the day, if you do make mistakes, it's fine. That's normal. And mistakes are so important in order for you to progress.
Yeah.
And like improve. At least you're improving. Feeling bad about something like, oh, I just had a really crappy day and I feel like crap at the end. I feel like so pathetic because I didn't use my time wisely. And I know many students will face that. It's fine. Just like, don't dwell about it. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Wake up and do something the next day.
Oh yeah, actually sleep more because most students are sleep deprived.
Yeah. So just don't dwell about it. Just sleep.
You know the part about reading, right? I wholly agree with you. I used to be someone who hates reading also. But in the past like 2+ years, I read 114 plus books. Like I recorded in this Goodreads app recently, and it's like, oh wow, it's quite a lot.
That's damn good.
Yeah. So my secret is audiobooks because I can 2 times speed and I absorb it much faster than having to open, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has changed my life. Full stop. Everything about my life has changed. So definitely I agree with you. But in reality, students, most of them are probably not going to read. They won't have the attention span. They won't have the interest. Yeah, so it's good, I agree with you, to read, but if you're a listener listening to this, you don't need to feel like you must.
Yeah.
And also, to end off this, you just now said that there's a lot of pressure on the 16-year-old going through O levels, right? And we make mistakes. Sometimes we waste time, we're not productive. But the good news is this, that you actually have a lot of time. Like, you have so much time. So, like, because I was in secondary school, then I went to A levels, which was way harder, and then I'm like now, which I'm juggling this business and uni.
Yeah.
So I realized that, oh, actually O level I have a lot of time during secondary school. So you do have a lot of time and room for mistakes. Like it's like going to the gym. Like I don't go to every single session. Sometimes I miss, sometimes I'm sick like last week. Sometimes I didn't push myself as hard as I wanted. But overall, if you're overall consistent, you will get a good physique.
Yeah.
And you get good results. So same for studying. In O levels, don't feel like everything must be perfect. You can screw up so many times along the way, and you can still get A1s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite forgiving. So that's good news.
That's true.
Okay. Any last words?
I think don't be so scared. Don't be so scared, and remember to prioritize sleep.
Yeah. So listen to the stuff in this podcast again, and you have even less reason to be scared because Rania has shared so many secrets.
Yeah, and like I used to be a student that really disliked studying too. So I think just you grow as time passes too. So don't be so afraid of time too. You have time. You're right.
Yeah,
like
you have time.
You generally do have time. So and don't feel guilty and regretful about making mistakes. They will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the time and coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
This whole thing is really cool.
This is my second podcast ever.
Yeah,
And
the previous one is about gymming.
yeah, and it was at my house. And I'm quite awkward when usually I'm quite a good talker, and good conversationalist. But when it's a podcast, then I get quite awkward. But thank you for making me feel comfortable.
Oh no, same. I was afraid that I would feel also a bit awkward because I'm also a little bit introverted at times. So, but it was like I feel like I learned a lot also that I can apply in my JC.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
If this video was helpful to you, please hit the like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Also, help us to get to 1,000 subscribers so that I can disable all the annoying YouTube ads. YouTube has this requirement that you need 1K subs, then you can do that. So please help me out, and that's a promise that once we reach that, I will remove YouTube ads forever from our videos. If you like our free Pure Bio notes, or you want to sign up for a trial lesson, then just click the link in the description.